Body modification allows the beholder to express themselves in a unique way, pay tribute to a religious or cultural belief, and live out a childhood dream. Body modification isn't just some fun thing to do to your body when you're bored on a whim. It's an expression because it deals with a story, a certain belief, a memory, a person, a place, a thing, an idea. It's a form of self-expression in an extraordinarily unique way because of the permanent nature of it. It's on your body and it's there for life. But my sister loved the symbolism of the phoenix and the idea of its rebirth and that it's always rising from the ashes. Body modification is also a tribute to a certain religion or cultural belief. Ear stretching is usually a passage from childhood to adulthood in most tribal communities in Africa and South America. Scarification also originated there because of the dark pigmentation of the people's skin. Ink from tattoos wouldn't show up or absorb as well into the skin, so they decided upon a new technique such as scarification, where they would take a blade to a person's skin, make a wound, and let it heal into a scar to either show status or belief or a social grouping or whatever. Finally, the idea of involving childhood dreams and body modification in the same sentence seems kind of bizarre, but children from very young ages can sometimes know what path that they want to take. For example, Rick Janess, aka Zombie Boy, always had an admiration for zombies. He got to the age where tattooing was a realistic concept, and he decided to go full force with making himself into a real live zombie. Like I mentioned before, body modification tends to be pretty permanent on your body. It's a huge decision, and though they can often be surgically or chemically or simply taken out, it's uncommon and usually a lengthy or expensive process to get anything removed. You have to weigh the pros and cons of what you're doing to your body. Is there a job you want to pursue where a tattoo being visible is not acceptable? Is blackening out your eyes going to affect your dating life? And is simply walking down the street with ink up and down your arms and a hoop hanging from your septum, is that going to get you judged? You have to be 100% certain about what you're getting into, not 99%. And David Hustleby, a tattoo artist that is very intertwined with my family, and who also works at Bonafide Tattoos in Concord, said to me during my interview that he thinks it's important that the person getting the tattoo finds their own meaning. And though he personally hopes it's more of a spiritual or empowering reason for them to mark their flesh, he cannot control the people and what they think is important. And the best he can do is educate them on alternatives and try to get the root of why they're getting what they want, and not because Google has 4,005 images of lilies with stars. So a lot of people actually came up to me with legitimate concern in their voice asking how Eric and I were going to fuse together longboarding and body modification. But really, when you look at it in a broader, more open-minded perspective, the connections are fairly easy. When you get on a board and go right off, you're expressing yourself. It's not as visible as a tattoo may be because it's not an image, but it's a definition of you and who you are, what you like, everything about you in one simple action, like getting a tattoo or a piercing or a surface implant. Also, they both deal with subculture. Piercings, not as often, depending on the severity of what it is, how uncommon. Tattoos, more common these days. You see a lot of people with tattoos, but surface implants and stretching of any piercing, not as common. And longboarding, not as common as, say, skateboarding or BMX or anything. Very subcultural, even if they may be on the rise of the food chain in the societal world. Also, there's some serious risks to your body. You're not wearing a helmet when you're longboarding. you could get injured. You're not using a properly sterilized needle, you could get an infection. Anytime a needle is going near your body, there's a chance that something's going to be going wrong, whether it's stabbing you or penetrating you a few hundred to a few thousand times a minute with ink going into your dermis, or to simply poke a hole somewhere and rest a nice piece of stainless steel. It's a risk that you're taking. If you don't wear the proper padding, you're at risk. If you don't have the proper care after you get your tattoo, your piercing, your stretching, your implant, there's risk. And your body can drastically change whenever you enter into either of these worlds. When you look at a tattoo, you're viewing it from the epidermis. That's the layer of skin that ends up dying off and going away. And then a new layer will form over that. Tattoo ink is injected into the dermis. Cells in the dermis are known for being more stable because they aren't the top layer, they are hidden underneath. So once the ink is there, it's there for good. If you were to simply put the ink onto just the skin that's the top layer, it would fall off when the skin cells fall off. And also, bleeding is very common. If you don't bleed when you're getting a tattoo, there's something wrong with you. Because little surface capillaries keep the skin oxygenated, and when you're tattooing them, they're broken, thus bleeding. And also, other medications such or alcohol can affect your system and cause more bleeding, which overall will not be good, especially if it's a large surface being inked.